Michael Dorman, you play John Tavener on Amazon's Patriot. While watching the show, something that I find particularly intriguing is watching your character and sort of trying to figure out what's going on in his head.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. What is going on in his head?
So I kind of look at John Tavener as he's kind of like this really empathetic, but kind of, you know, like he feels everything in his profession. And I kind of see him as really fractured. Like you kind of, when we first meet this character, he's just come off the back of a failed mission, and it's apparent that he's suffering from some kind of mental illness or something, like some kind of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I almost, like, I try to create a character that for him to just say hello is an extreme effort, because he's in so much like mental discomfort, you know, as sort of like a foundation of a character, and then sort of put him in this scenario where he's there to save the world. So most of the time when you kind of see him, he's just trying to like keep breathing. Like, it's that simple. He's got to that point where he's so messed up that even for him to just keep on, you know, going, like just breathing is an effort. So it's almost like you know, like this, I try and create a character that just have this cloud of weight on him from the start, and then put him in scenarios, like all these situations, which is kind of what, you know, Steve's done on the page, Steve Conrad, the writer.
Because he's got, as you were talking about, this real fragility, but he's also quite isolated because not many people know what he does. Like, pretty much just Tim and his dad know the full extent of things.
That's right. They call them NOCs, which is an acronym for non-official cover. So these guys are basically sent out with no ties to any government, so that if they're discovered, then it doesn't lead back to anyone. And it's, you know, I mean, those guys that work on the field like that, as you say, they are in complete isolation. They have no real ground support, and they have these, you know, these huge tasks that they have to take.
And like, I guess, like, as an actor, what is the challenge with like conveying a lot of these sorts of, like, because there's a lot of it's internal, sort of stuff that's going on.
You know, we had we had a lot of fun doing it, because it doesn't get to say a lot, as you know, and so to try and justify that or figure out what that means, like what's happening for him, why can't he speak, what does that mean, like what kind of mental illness does that, you know, include, and then, you know, from there, then okay, well, how do we get him to convey it? So then it becomes sort of like him sort of trying to channel, you know, what's happening with just his eyes, which is for us, you know, very comic. We had a lot of fun doing it.
How would you describe his relationship, John's relationship with his father, played by Terry OQuinn, one of like my favorite TV sort of character actors?
Yeah. You know, I would say that, like, he's one of those guys that would do anything for his father. Like, family means everything to him, which is where that loyalty comes from. And I guess that becomes like a driving force for John. The reason why he keeping on is purely because of his father. If he didn't have such a strong, like a huge respect for him, he wouldn't be doing what he is. And I'd say that Terry is pretty much the driving force behind everything that he does.
Yeah. And what's it like working with Terry OQuinn?
Oh, he's wonderful. He's a wonderful guy to work with. You know, he loves music. We spend a lot of time offset playing music. Music, you know, is kind of like a centerpiece of the story or of the character. But yeah, you know, a real pro. Knows his way around a set and knows how to have a good time. So we had a lot of fun on and offset.
Okay, and you bring up the music, which I think is a good point, because that is a real feature of the show, the sort of folk scene, folk music. Was that like, how did that sort of become part of the show, and what role do you think that plays?
I mean, it was always a part of the show. From the first script, there was music involved in it. I mean, me playing the part, like, music was never discussed. It was more trying to find the actor, and then it just so happens, like, in my early years, I played a lot of music myself, so I just sort of dusted off the guitar, which I hadn't picked up in almost, you know, a decade, but you know, kind of was an impetus to start playing again. And the musical element, I guess John's, the character, kind of uses it as a way to kind of self-medicate, or, you know, it becomes its own character in the sense that, because you talk about, you know, this guy being isolated, music becomes kind of his solace or his friend. And so the music becomes a character in itself by being the place of refuge for him.
Is it maybe like for him to express things that he can't express in other ways as well? Like, it is sort of like, yeah. Like,
rather than it becoming, I mean, expression is a result of him trying to use it to cope. You know, like, he's got no one to talk to about or air these ideas. So it's almost like, by not saying anything, you're not kind of putting yourself in a position where you're exposing yourself. So his exposition becomes song, because that's the only place you can talk. Do you know what I mean? Which for me creates the comedy.
Yeah. What do you think would have happened if you couldn't have played guitar, like you didn't do music?
It's the magic of movies, you know, or, you know, storytelling. We would have come up with something. I mean, it just helped. Like, it helped to be able to record some of the songs live, and to be able to be the voice on the tracks and things like that. And, you know, I got to go and play live shows as well, like the music of Patriot, or from Patriot, you know, at things like South by Southwest, which for me was, I'd never been to the festival and had always dreamed of going there, but, you know, it's a fair hike from Melbourne. So to get to go over there and see the festival, but to be playing at it was like, it's just kind of, you know, experience.
Yeah. And you said you and Terry both like have that appreciation for music, and in the first episode, I think it's the first episode, you and him sing a song together, which is nice.
Color, yeah. If I Needed You. You know, I kind of discovered Towns when I was like early 20s, and had a real admiration for that kind of style, and moved away from it eventually, like, you know, as you do, but to revisit that, and then to have Terry's influence as well. Like, when we first met, that was kind of how we hit it off. Was, you know, the idea was proposed that we play this cover, and so we just started jamming offset, and that's kind of built a rapport with us, you know, as artists or actors, and then that sort of translates on the screen in terms of the relationship between this father and son. You know, it was a great window.
Do you guys have a favorite song to jam to or listen to on set? You
know, like, he writes a lot himself, like, writes all his own stuff. So we just sort of, you know, mess about with his stuff, or I'll show him stuff that I've been writing or banging around on. And, you know, it was more kind of our own stuff. And then that Town cover was one that we sort of did, but mainly sort of all, you know, original stuff. We'll just make stuff up, you know, just for fun.
Oh, cool. If the acting stuff doesn't work out for you guys, you can go on the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your favorite moment in season 1?
There was a lot of sequences that they were kind of one-ers. We did a few sequences where, you know, it's running for a minute, 2-minute takes. Some of them more, I guess, orchestrating a shot that involves so many different moving parts, where every player in that shot has to be on and has to execute whatever it is they have to do perfectly. And because you have so many different parts coming into one shot, it creates that, it's like watching a stunt. Like, when you see a massive stunt, it's real quiet on set, because, you know, something special is happening. And a lot of those sequences became, you know, my kind of pinnacle moments in the series, and there's a few of them throughout the show. But then daily, like, we just had so much fun, a lot of laughs, you know, a lot of, even when I did the audition for the role, I must have done about 17 takes with a friend of mine in his living room. And the first 16, I was just corpsing and laughing out loud every time. I just couldn't keep a straight face until the 17th take, where I didn't laugh, and that was the one that we sent. But every day was like that. We were just, you know, trying to get through it without laughing. You know, working with guys like Conrad, he's hilarious. He'll sort of make it, you know, his goal is to come on and make you laugh. So, you know, a lot of fun the whole way through. But yeah, definitely Man in a Bag sequence and the scissor paper rock sequence, and you know, some of those ones where it's just got these huge long takes, where we've kind of had to spend a few weeks planning the shot. There's like one called Tomorrowland as well, which is like a sequence where John is going to play at a festival, and I can remember on the day we still hadn't, Steve, the writer and director, still hadn't written the song. In you know, so I go and knock on his trailer, and I didn't want to kind of, you know, interrupt or put any pressure on him, but I knew that they'd basically knocking on my trailer saying, you want it on set. The song still hadn't been written, so I'm kind of waiting for the song, and then eventually he gives it to me and writes it out, and I'm walking to set, it's pouring rain, and I'm reading these lyrics in the song, and as I arrive, they go, yep, we're all set up and we're going to do it in one. And, you know, you kind of just run with it. It's like seat of your pants styles, but to execute those shots is just, you know, for me and all of us, an achievement in those moments, you know, given the circumstances.
Do you, the show is like a comedy in a lot of ways. There's also a lot of darkness in the show. And like, how do you balance all those different elements?
What do you mean?
How do you balance like sort of the comedy with the darkness, with the action? Like, there's a lot of different layers to this show, and how do you approach them?
I think in any storytelling, if you just find, or if you just look for the truth in any moment, that happens without having to worry about it, like with the comedy or the action or any of it. Just find the truth in any moment, and the rest will follow. And I think that because of the way that Steve writes, he's got a very unique style, and it's got a very distinct rhythm to it. But the characters are very human characters, and characters that you can find an element that you relate to. And then everything you're talking about just follows from that. It all stems from finding some sort of real element in whatever it is you're telling or expressing.
What do you think John's best scene of season 1 was?
Best scene?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a tough one. I'm not sure if I could find like a best scene for him. But for me personally, as an actor, I'd say some of those bigger ones where, like, doing the scissors paper rock scene. And that was crazy. We must have done that like 500, 600 times, and I think we only did it like on the day, like, you know, you only get a few shots at it. But I think getting it out in its entirety, like through rehearsals, I think we only did it 4 or 5 times. And one of those just happened to be when the cameras were rolling. Like, we couldn't have a prompt because you'd be able to see, you know, you'd be able to see it in our eyes that we're being prompted by someone. So we just had to learn all those moves, and then, you know, execute it the way that you see it. Yeah. You know, they were just, really tricky scenes for me.
First time anyone's done a scissors paper rock best of 600.
Yeah, like 600, like the amount of times like that we try to get it, because you kind of, when you're doing something like that, it's almost like you kind of lose track of where you are, and just all these moves are coming out. I can't remember, I forget how many we did. It must have been close to 50. But to do it in one thing and then and then run the dialogue with it was you know, it was a challenge.
Yeah. In America, isn't it rock, paper, scissor?
What's that? In America?
In America, isn't it rock, paper, scissor?
Is it a rock, paper, scissor?
Like, I feel like they say them in a different order in America.
Okay.
Like I grew up
Rochambeau.
Yeah, like I grew up on scissors, paper, rock, but I feel like it's rock, paper, scissor, or something. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. It's crazy the sort of themes and issues your show is dealing with. Like the past week, we've just had the FBI, or America has just had the FBI director be fired. Like, it seems like intelligence is at the forefront of consciousness at the moment in the world and American politics and things like that. What do you think Patriot says about intelligence?
Oh, I think it's more kind of the setup for the world that they live in, and I guess we didn't set out to make a statement about intelligence, or the guys that work in intelligence, which is an extremely challenging job. It was more just kind of like a premise to set up a world so that then we could build some kind of suspense from that world, rather than it being a statement about anything. And I mean, the scripts were written, 10 years ago, or the pilot anyway, or the idea, and then it's just kind of a coincidence that, it happens to be at the forefront now. But yeah, I don't think there was ever an intention of a statement, or on the Intelligence Bureau, or politics, or what's happening in the world. Just purely circumstantial.
Yeah. What would you say Patriot's about? If someone was to ask you, what is Patriot about? How would you sum it up?
When people ask a lot, obviously ask all the time, and I find it hard to kind of pigeonhole it, other than it's a suspense show that kind of, follows an intelligence officer who is suffering from PTSD and finds, solace in writing folk music. Which kind of doesn't really capture what it's about anyway. Generally, I kind of find that I'm always saying to people that if you want to know what it's about, it's just one of those shows you got to watch it just to see it, because it's not like anything I've seen. And it's not like, I couldn't say that it's a spy show, or like espionage, or action, or drama, or comedy, or any of that. It's just kind of, I don't know. For me, it's Patriot is Patriot.
Yeah.
How have you been describing it?
How would I describe it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Like, I guess sort of a spy show centered around a father-son dynamic with some folk music thrown in. Like that.
Hilarious. Like, because then when you say spy show, like generally people will think like Mission Impossible, or do you know what I mean? They'll think, oh, it's like Bourne. Is it like Bourne, or is it, is it like that? And you're like, well, no, it's kind of not like that at all. But yeah, it's a tough one to kind of categorize.
No, definitely. What do you think about? Have you watched it all? Do you watch the show?
Yeah, I watched before we did the press tour. I kind of binged it in like 2 days.
Okay, cool. Watching it, what surprised you the most?
I find it hard to watch stuff, like watch my own stuff, and I'm still trying to figure out what that means, and how to kind of step back from sort of shooting everything down, or taking that kind of negative approach. So for me, it's always it always kind of results in me dissecting it and tearing it apart, rather than just sitting it and enjoying it as a viewer. I find it much easier to enjoy things that I'm not in. So I still haven't quite figured out how to be, enjoy the storytelling. For me, like when I watched it, it was just kind of like revisiting old friends, and you know, I kind of look more at, you know, oh, there's that person or that day, or, you know, enjoying, you know, what's happening behind the scenes rather than enjoying the story itself.
Yeah, it's hard. Like it's almost like a football team watching the tape, but after like trying to break down all the plays. Yeah,
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
I sort of figured out how to do that. So, you know, I guess it's just young artists.
You're in a lot of the show. Did you have a favorite bit that you weren't in? Like,
you know, I guess I love watching Kurtwood Smith. You know, I love watching what that guy does, and when I did watch it back to see it, you know, like I get to witness him on set, but then to see the way that, you know, the camera is capturing his work, like that guy's just, he was one of the first guys that sort of picked up the rhythm of Steve's writing and just how, you know, you could bring it to life. So for me, I really enjoyed watching his performance, both on set and in the show itself.
Oh, well, Michael, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. All the best of luck for the Emmy Awards that are coming up and for season 2 of Patriot.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah. Is there anything you're excited about with season 2?
Well, I haven't read the scripts yet. So
great.
I'm excited to get back together with this team that we've kind of created. It's a really cool team that we've got together, really good people. So I enjoy their company and I enjoy you know, working with them. So I can't wait to spend some more time, you know. And it's a really special show for me, Patriot. You know, it's probably one of my favorites. It's definitely up there as one of the best things that I've been a part of or had the pleasure to be a part of. So,
yeah,
you know, it's kind of stretching me creatively and I'm growing. So I'm enjoying it.
Do you have one wish for season 2?
Maybe that John can see Alice, his wife.
Yeah, yes. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much, Michael.
Hey, thanks, mate.
Okay, press the stop button now.